Hello everyone, thanks for watching. This time it is again live from my bedroom, not really my bedroom, my hotel room in Bali in Indonesia. I'm taking again the opportunity to say a few words, and this time it's going to be about signs. What the hell is this about? Is it some sort of spiritual thing, some sort of hippie stuff? Well, I don't know, but for the last 6 months, I had the weirdest and the best signs I could ever have. Um, in Japan, there are a lot of people wearing t-shirts or bags with different, messages in English and in French, sometimes in a really bad English or in a really bad French, and it sometimes doesn't really mean anything. But the more when I was struggling, the more I was, using my spirituality and my faith to start, to get better and to hope for better things and to help myself. The more I was reading and developing myself, the more I was researching ways to manage my emotions or to train my brain, the more I was doing all this work on myself, really going deep inside myself, meditating, praying. I'm just not saying that, one time or anything. It was such a hard work that a lot of you know that I burnt out so many times. But the more I was doing that, the more it felt like my brain was opening up to new things. Not just hope and faith, but also to signs that life puts in front of us that we can't really see with the naked eyes. And sometimes it requires us to go deep within to be able to finally see those signs. And you might say it's just a coincidence, and that is fine. And that's what I thought at first when those signs kept on, being in front of my eyes all the time. And some really strange coincidences happen. It could be visual sign or just events happening in my life. I mentioned in the past that my work visa in Japan was expiring in September, at the end of September, and I was so fed up with things happening to me that I had decided to leave Japan. And I walk into my office and I say, that's it, I want to resign, I'm just done, I'm going to leave Japan. And my boss, said really randomly, not randomly, but she just said to me, well, no, don't do that, don't close yourself any doors, just apply for the renewal of your visa, and then you will see what happens. And that event was just the start of everything. I talked about taking decisions and how even if it's not the right decision or it doesn't lead you where you want, it actually moves things. And I don't believe this was a coincidence, because what happened in the weeks and months after were so full of abundance. Even in the worst time of my life, where I had lost my relationship, I was kicked out of my apartment, I had lost my job, because I had lost my job as well. That was a few weeks later. In all this, I remember receiving at home the little paper from the immigration, and my heart was beating so fast. And as I took the train to go to the immigration office to know, what my future would be, it was literally in the hand of someone else. My heart was pumping, and as the train was going to the station close to the immigration, and the bus that was taking me to the immigration office itself, I remember just seeing in my mind the last 3 years in slow motion, like wondering, what had happened to me and how come I was in such a situation, what was my life going to be about. I was an absolute disaster. I had no idea where I was going. I was on autopilot mode. But I just knew that I was fighting so hard to get better. I was fighting to just breathe. And as I arrived at the immigration, I remember queuing and getting a ticket with a number to go to a specific line at the immigration office, and I had no idea what was written on the ticket. It was in Japanese, and I took a photo of that ticket and I sent it to my friend, and I said, "Oh, I'm so worried. What if I don't get my visa, and what's going to happen? And I'm so sad for everything that is going on in my life." And my friend texted me saying, my Japanese friend texted me saying, "Oh, but you are in the approved queue, so that means you got your visa extended." And I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Oh, that's really..." And until I got my residence card, I just didn't want to believe it. And indeed, I got my residence card, and I did not look at the date. They give you your visa for a specific date. I took the card, I closed my eyes, I just walked through the door, past everybody, and I just knew I was gonna cry of joy or whatever, of relief, or just crying of too many emotions. And I went into a corner, like a corridor, where I was just on my own, and I sat. Did I sat? I don't remember. No, I stood up against the wall, and I took the card and I flipped it, and I looked at the date, and indeed I had my work visa, and it was a 1-year work visa, which was perfectly fine for me. I was not even thinking of having a visa renewed. And at that moment, I collapsed on the floor. I sat down and I cried for like 5 minutes. I was under shock. What was going on? What was happening? Why was I given, at the worst time of my life, an extension of my stay in a country where all my life was falling apart? I had in just a few days after, I was not, well, I actually hadn't had my flat anymore. I was in a new place. Everything was completely changed. I barely had a job. And yet I was given, I was given my visa. What was that supposed to be? And I really took it as a sign. And all along the weeks before, I felt I was so surviving. I was really fighting to get better, to be okay, just being okay. And I left the immigration office, and as I was about to get on the bus to go back to the station, I looked at a girl that was about to get on the bus, and she was carrying a bag. On that bag, it was written, "Survive." I think I pointed out the sky. I was like, yeah, that's exactly that. I survived. And from that moment, and even the weeks before, I had already seen many signs, and I just knew that God or the universe, whatever you want to call it, was on my side and was helping me. I knew I wasn't just alone. And one thing that really struck me, a few weeks after, I was guiding some tourists in Tokyo. And I was in Shibuya, which is the center of Tokyo, and I was going up the escalators at the Starbucks located right in the middle of Shibuya crossing. And this was maybe 2 months or 3 months after everything that had happened over the summer. And everything had changed in my life. And as I was about on the escalators, there was this person, I think it was a woman, with a jacket or a sweater, I don't remember. And on that sweater or jacket, you would never believe what was written. And maybe it's gonna sound crazy. It was written, "One summer can change everything." And from that moment, I was just so shocked. And every single time I looked around, I saw messages. And as I started to get better, messages and the type of messages was starting to change. It was becoming more positive. It was first about struggle and how there is sun behind the clouds and all these kind of messages. And then it started to be about believe in yourself. Good things are about to happen. And all these things started to change towards something more positive. when I really started to feel that I was healing is when messages became even stronger, like life is beautiful, follow your heart, remember who you are, these kind of things. And I'm not joking, it was absolutely everywhere. And when you develop yourself, when you work so hard on yourself, you become more aware of things around you. And but I think it requires really a really strong work on yourself, because we are intelligent and we don't use all the parts in our brains, but as we dig into that, I think there are things around us that we normally can't see it, and sometimes struggle allow us to actually explore new capabilities in our brain. And I think we become more aware of things, and by doing that, also doing the effort of helping ourselves, I think we do attract things. And when you help yourself, the universe or God helps you as well. So I think I just really wanted to say that story, because there's been so many incredible things that have followed me until now. Some coincidences, when I traveled, when I met new people, reading things, hearing about things unexpectedly. And all those things have always guided me until the date of today. Of course, it doesn't mean that everything gets resolved and we get clarity, but somehow it feels that we have all these little hands right on our path, or like little light, and then we grab those hands and we are just moving forward. That happened as well with time. I think people call it synchronicity or whatever, and it's a very strange concept, and it's a little bit weird for some people. It was a little bit weird for me, but I started to see like things like 11:11 or 22:22 when I was watching the time. And recently, for the last month and a half, I've been seeing the number 5 absolutely everywhere. And 5 is like, I think it's associated with transformation and changes, which is exactly what I've been trying to do the last few months, making step for, to make decisions for changing my life, which I'm trying to do. And there was this moment where the time and the date was like 5, and it was 5:55 and 55 seconds. It was just crazy. But perhaps it doesn't mean anything. But I believe it just means, at least, that you are becoming aware and you are moving things forward, that things are changing. And now you are able to see it. Maybe you have more strength. And the most important thing is that you are never alone. But what you need is just a little bit of strength to grab those little hands, to dig into your brain. And I promise you that things are going to start changing. And that's all. I'm sure there's plenty of other things that I wanted to talk about, especially meeting people in my life. And I will talk about that in a different video. But last summer, I bumped into someone that was going to be such an important person in my life. And that person had a very exact, actually similar story than me. And we were just meant to bump into each other randomly, and that became a really strong friendship to me and to that person. And we were meant to help each other, and all the people I met after, and all the places I went to, even the place where I live. But that's for other videos anyway. But I wanted to say that look around you, seek help, read things, and try your best. When you do that, things are going to come to you. But look around, because we normally can't see it like this on our day-to-day life. But when we dig into our brain, into our inner strength, we are totally able to see that. So look around next time you go in the street, and you will see those signs, especially for those looking for answers. If you really want those answers and you really are honest in moving your life forward, and again, independently of what's going on, right? You have to do it for yourself. Please have a look and tell me if this happens to you. All right, have a good day wherever you are, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.